All right, so today we are in Be Set Apart, Part 5. Part 5, yes. All right, and I'm very excited about where we're going with this. I mean, today should be interesting how much we get covered, but once we finish what I want to do today, if I get it done today and how much time we have, we are going to, because of the nature of what was written in this one letter, we're going to read pretty much the entire letter to the Ephesians. Okay? Because every chapter is actually focused on an aspect of be set apart. Okay? So, except for chapter 6, but we may just have to cover that since we might as well finish the book. But today we're going to start in Numbers chapter 16 and go through something we just covered a couple of weeks ago in our Torah portions. But it really has an incredibly important message for us about being set apart. So let's remember again, before we get started, that in Leviticus 19:2, Yahweh says to the children of Israel, be set apart, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am set apart. So he instructs us to be set apart. We know the definition that I've been giving you is to be Kodesh or Kadosh. Kodesh means to be consecrated, declared sacred, in other words. Something that is declared sacred, that's what it means to be set apart. Dedicated or set apart for the service or worship of Yahweh. To set apart is to separate something for a special purpose, in this case, what? The service or worship of Yahweh. And to distinguish it. That's really going to be the key all through all of these parts of the teaching. Distinguishing it as different in a way that is open and obvious. Because after all, it does represent Yahweh. We are also aware from the teaching so far why we would want to do this. One, the favor of the Master Yeshua Messiah is with the set-apart ones from Revelation 22. From Revelation 20, we know it says that blessed and set apart is the one having part in the first resurrection. So these are set-apart people that get to be in the first resurrection. And in Exodus 30, we know that which is, this is the example of the shekel of the set-apart place, that which is set apart is what is used as a measuring stick for other things that want to be used as set apart. So we have the set apart shekel that was officially made and put in the temple. All things shekels were going to be compared to that were being used as set apart shekels when you made an offering. So we want to be set apart people. Guess what? There is one that we can compare ourselves to, which is the standard, the measuring stick, which is the set apart Messiah. And so we have our Messiah who is set apart, who is holy. And he's our measuring stick. So now we're going to look at number 16, and we're going to look at the understanding of Yahweh is the one who judges who is set apart and who is not. You don't get to do this. You don't get to decide for yourself if you're set apart or not. Yahweh will be the one who judges. So you should all know the story here. This is the account of what happened with Korach. Verse 1, and Korach, the son of Yitzchar, son of Kehath, son of Levi, took both Dathan and Aviram and the sons of Eliav, and On, son of Peleth, sons of Reuben. And they rose up before Moshe with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, called ones of the meeting, men of name. So he didn't just gather a bunch of nobodies, okay? He went and gathered people that were highly respected. People of position, of reputation, 250 of them. That's a lot of people. And he said, and they brought them before Moshe. It says they rose up before Moshe. So it's not just that they went, they rose up. I mean, those are fighting words. You understand what I'm saying? It's like we say today, oh, you're like the person's bowing up, like they're bowing up. I'm getting ready to, you know. We talk about an uprising, right? What's an uprising? People come rising up to come against. So they rose up. They didn't just go to see Moses. They rose up. And it says they assembled against Moshe and against Aaron and said to them. So now they're all full of themselves. They've already decided in their own mind, in their own hearts, before this is happening, that they are set apart, and who are you, Moses and Aaron, to think you're something special? And they said to Moses and Aaron, enough of you. All the congregation is set apart, all of them. In other words, you have set yourselves apart. You have distinguished yourself as different in some way. This is what they're claiming. And by the way, Yahweh agrees with that. They are set apart in a different way. The people were set apart as a nation. Then the Levites were set apart in a role. Then the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, were set apart in a different role. And Moshe was in a different role. All of them were set apart. So this is not a misrepresentation of the truth. It's just a bending and twisting of it to their own purposes. Yes, all of the congregation is set apart. Moses wasn't claiming, neither was Aaron, that they were set apart and the congregation wasn't. However, they were set apart in a role. And that's part of what you really need to learn today, is understand that you have a role, other people have their role, and that doesn't mean that you should have or desire theirs, or they desire yours, okay? Because you can get into a Korach problem. So he says, all of them are set apart, and Yahweh is in their midst. It's like, well, Yahweh's in their midst, and he's in your midst. Okay, yes, but you know what? Miriam and Aaron had a small problem like this, and Yahweh said, excuse me, yes, you are set apart, but I'm the only one that I talk to face-to-face is Moshe. I don't do that with you. He's set apart to a different role, a different purpose. Not because he's better, but because that's his role. It's his job. So then, listen how they continue. They go, why then do you, Moses and Aaron, lift up yourselves above the assembly of Yahweh? So now, this is already a disconnect of reality, because he's not only hinting at, he's outright saying they have set themselves up in authority. They elevated themselves. Well, who made you in charge? Yahweh did. You know, the same thing happens with all your anointed appointeds. There are always going to be people that are like, well, why you? I remember years ago, I've told you this story many times. You know, we had a congregation in Nashville, and a guy used to come up to me at the end of the service and saying, you know, I don't think we're supposed to have just like one guy in front of the room. And by the way, I still hear this today in various places. We're not supposed to have one. We should all be sitting around and just discussing the word. Everybody should have a say. Anybody been in one of those congregations? Did you really get very far? I mean, maybe when you first got there and you knew maybe even less than they did, you learned a little bit. But really, how far can you get in that sort of circle, kumbaya nonsense? Okay? You can't. Leadership is there to pull you and push you when necessary in the right direction. Give you a little bit of a tug, or a little bit of a nudge. You don't get that when people are sitting in a circle, all just trying to share their opinion and tell everybody how wonderfully bright they are. Okay? Or they just like to argue or whatever they're going to do. So now remember, we're dealing with being set apart, what actually makes you set apart, what does it actually look like, and then who gets to decide who is set apart on what way. So there are tiers and levels of set apartness, not that one is better than the other, but there are tiers and levels of set apartness. I'll say it again though, not that anyone is better. My role is not your role. It doesn't make me better than you. It just means I have this job and you don't. And you have your job and I don't. It's not about being better. There's no pride and ego in this. As a matter of fact, trust me, the people that get put to higher levels would almost wish they could give that up and go to lower levels. It's really, really tough. A lot of responsibility, a lot of pain and suffering, a lot of aggravation. If you were here last night, you heard me say that I had yesterday was a rough week. Not because it was rough in any kind, it was just a lot of nonsense. And it wasn't my nonsense, it was just people just being people. Okay? Which is why Moses at some point finally said to Yahweh, can you do me a favor? If I've done anything that's pleased you, could you just kill me? I mean, that's really what Moses said. I mean, anything. I mean, I'm good with that. Just put me out of my misery. Dealing with people is hard. And I'm sure that Korach had no idea what that job was going to be like that he was wanting. Because a lot of you, maybe not in this room, but a lot of you that have listened to me in the past, or that you may talk to people that have listened to me, might say, oh, he just likes to be the king, and he wants to be the authority, and he wants to rule over everybody. That's what Korach is wanting, actually. Korach wants to rule, doesn't understand leadership from a serving position. Moses wasn't ruling anything. But he had the responsibility for all the people and for the decision making. It's a burden. And I teach that to the other leaders, that if you're in leadership, you have the burden of responsibility to make decisions. You're not the boss. Okay? But it is a burden. Because when a decision has to be made, there's nobody else to give it to if you're the leader. It's yours. You know, there's some marriages out there suffering right now because the man will not make decisions. Or because the wife is too busy jumping in front of him to let him make decisions. The right person needs to be making them, and they have to respect that it's a burden. And everybody around them needs to respect that that burden is theirs. It's not easy. All right? It's not easy. So look at this mindset by these people that think they're all set apart, right? We're all set apart. And now we're going to accuse you of lifting yourselves up. Wait a minute. If Yahweh set you apart, and Yahweh put Moses in this position, who's setting who apart? They didn't set themselves apart. Yahweh grabbed Moshe. Yahweh sent him to Egypt. Yahweh sent Aaron with him. They went and spoke to Pharaoh. They led them out of Egypt and into the wilderness. They led them through the sea into Sinai. Was Korach in a coma during all of this? Because I think sometimes we act like we just woke up out of a coma. Like, how did you miss that part? But this is because pride and ego in him was coming out of, don't get mad at me, out of a very, very, very negative blue space. Okay? Because in his mind, this wasn't right. Okay? It's not right that you're in charge. I don't like the way you're in charge. I don't like the position I have. I don't like. It's not right. It's not fair. If you find yourself saying the words, it's not fair, that's not right, you're having a blue moment. I'm telling you. White's going to think it and not say it. Red's never going to think it or say it. Red's just going to deal with it and move on, adjust to it, replace it, whatever it is. But you're never going to hear me saying, that's not fair, that's not right. Unless someone asks me, what do you think? Do you think this is right? And I'll say, well, no, I don't think that's right. Or I'll give you my opinion if you ask me. But it's not a thought I'm thinking from a red side. Have you ever heard me say that, Billy? No, okay? But the blues say it all the time. He's having a blue moment. Now, it's not bad that as a blue you recognize injustice. You recognize right and wrong in certain ways, but it's filtered through your own personal sense of it, not necessarily his sense, and you have to make sure as a blue you work harder than others to align yours with his. Because you have such a strong sense of right and wrong. Some people are like, what is this color stuff? Well, we did a personality thing called the color code, which broke people up to red, white, yellow, and blue, okay? As personality styles. But you guys, it's a curse and a blessing, your strength of sense of right and wrong and justice. You have to make sure that you line up with him. When he says, vengeance is mine, he's not talking to the whites and the yellows and the reds. Okay? He's talking to the blues. Because the blues want their justice yesterday. And they want to be able to watch it and witness it. They don't want it 20 years from now somewhere down the road where they don't get to see it. Okay, I want to see it. I want it to happen. I want to be there with my popcorn, and I want to know. Okay? Oh, yeah, people reap what they sow. I just want a front row seat when it happens. That's okay, all the blues are laughing. Okay, they're all like, amen. But be careful, because you can end up in this Korach and Aviram, and this is not going to be good. Korach, Dathan, Aviram, because their sense is that this is wrong, what's going on with Moses and Aaron. They've allowed themselves to go into the dark side of the blue, okay? And that's not good. That's not good at all. And so they take that mindset And now we see something different. We see Moses' reaction in verse 4. Remember, we're comparing both groups of people, quote unquote, set apart. Moses and Aaron and Dathan, Aviram, and the rest of the group that's with him, the 250 guys. Now, Moses' response is, when Moses heard this, he fell on his face. And he spoke to Korach and all the company, saying, so when he fell on his face, maybe that's literal. I think it's more of an idiomatic idea of he humbled himself, lowered his countenance, didn't get strong and in their face, but he took it in a very sad and humble, soft way, okay? Soft, not to create more wrath and to meet fire with fire, throw more gasoline on it, etc. And so he speaks to Korah and says, look, tomorrow morning, Yahweh shall make known who is his and who is set apart, and bring him near to him, and let him bring near to him the one whom he chooses. So he doesn't argue, hey, he called me, I was over there, where were you with the burning bush? Where were you when this is happening? No, he simply says, okay, tomorrow morning, we'll let Yahweh decide, okay? Remind you of 1 Kings and Elijah, okay, and the prophets of Baal. I was going to quote that and bring that into this, but it's not exactly the same, but it's about choosing which way you're going to go. You're going to choose Baal, you're going to choose Yahweh. But he still let Yahweh show which prophets were which. So here we see, he says to Korach, so he says, do this. Now notice he's still acting in a very authoritative way. He says to Korach, all right, I heard you. Tomorrow morning this is going to happen. This is what you're going to do. Do this. Take fire holders, you Korach and all your company, put fire in them and put incense in them before Yahweh tomorrow. And it shall be that the one whom Yahweh chooses is the set apart one. Enough of you, sons of Levi. So, because remember, he started off saying enough of you to Aaron and Moses. So he's like, no, you sons of Levi, enough of you. We'll settle this thing out. We'll let Yahweh settle it. By the way, let that all be a lesson to you again with that vengeance is mine. Let Yahweh settle it. Yahweh will settle it. Look, if I'm not anointed and appointed, Yahweh will take care of that. You have no fear of teachers out there that if they're not what they claim they are, Yahweh will settle it. He'll either settle it by taking them out or he'll settle it by making it clear to you. One or the other, because there's still a lot of guys out there that need to be taken out who are not. That's fine. Yahweh's allowing them to be there for a reason, but you left. You no longer go to those places. So Moses says to Korach, hear now, you sons of Levi, is it little to you that Elohim of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to perform the service of the dwelling place of Yahweh, and to stand before the congregation to serve him? And that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brothers, the sons of Levi, with you. See, they were not having any dayenu. Dayenu means it would have been enough. We sang that song today, right? Will it ever be enough? Well, for these guys, no. He says, is it not enough that he's separated you out of the rest of the 12 tribes and that he's given you this opportunity to come closer physically, literally to him than other people get to go and interact with and do things other people don't get to do in serving him? He says, yet you seek more than is your station. You seek the priesthood. Because after all, there was the people, then there were the Levites. One tier up from that, and then one tier up from that was the priesthood, the sons of Aaron. So it's not enough what I gave you to do. Look, that's where you have to find shalom in what he's given you to do. I still have people on a regular basis coming up to me because they think, or they want to think, what their heart may be driving, their desire may be driving more than their intellect, that they're supposed to be in front of a room teaching. They think they're supposed to be ministering. They think they're supposed to be in the priesthood. Now the question is it something that you're actually anointed to do, or is it something you just want to do? And if you want something bad enough, you're going to believe that you were anointed. You're going to believe that he's called you. You're going to believe anything. That's why we'll see here at some point, and we'll see it again in Ephesians, that it's the anointed, appointed who already are in position that select out and anoint and appoint the next ones. You don't get to anoint and appoint yourself. Okay, it doesn't work that way. All right? So somebody might say, well, then who anointed and appointed you? Well, I do have smicha from various organizations. Smicha is ordination, but that's not even the point. The point is, with the way it starts off, if you don't have a discipler, is you do what you think you're supposed to do, and people respond to it or they don't. So as I was teaching and sharing with people, people started asking me to teach and share more. I was teaching just a little bit of Torah portion work. 20 minutes is all they gave me. Could you imagine me, 20 minutes? And the guy sat in the front row looking at his watch, literally doing this to me when I went more than 20 minutes. And so we had a little falling out. He got rid of me because I wasn't happy with the restriction on 20 minutes. And so when I went to walk out, people came up to me and said, well, where are you going to go teach now? I said, I wasn't even thinking about teaching. I mean, I did not want and desire necessarily this work. I said, but if you want me to teach, fine, go find a place and I'll teach. And they went and found a hotel they could rent a room in initially, and then we found another building. But it was people pushed that issue, okay? It was people. I didn't go up to anybody ever and say, hey, I think I can teach. I want you to let me teach. You know how I got the first job teaching in Knoxville in that small congregation, 20 minutes? Well, if you know, then you can tell me, because I don't know how I got that job. I happened to go up to visit that congregation for a guest speaker that was coming into town. So I met the leadership of the congregation. We talked a little bit, just social talk. I was living in Atlanta, North Atlanta, and this was in Knoxville. It's about, almost about 3-hour drive, almost 2.5-hour drive from there. And so, my wife and I had gone up there, and then another speaker came in a few months later, so he contacted us, the leader of that group, and said, hey, would you like to come up and see this guy too? I said, sure. Went up there to see him again. And then a few weeks later, I got a phone call saying I had a dream, and my wife had a dream that, we're supposed to bring a Jewish man in to help teach our congregation because I may be moving to Colorado because I work in the nuclear business, and this and this and this. I had never taught anything that he had heard ever anywhere. Okay? But he invited me to come up and be the Torah portion teacher. I wasn't leading a group in Atlanta. I had a little Bible study of 5 people. We just talked a little bit before going to church service Saturday, just to try and get something in a little meatier than the nonsense we were getting at the church service, which was uselessness, okay? Anybody been in a church where after 2 years you've heard everything they have to say? But then they're still there 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, bored out of your mind? Okay, so that's where we were with the United Church of God at the time. So we had a few people get together, and let's go ahead and do a little Bible studying. I didn't know. And then I realized nobody in our little circle of 5 or 6 people had anything to share. We would pick a topic. I'm sure this is what a lot of these groups do. We picked a topic and said, okay, next week, this is the topic. Everybody study it all week, and then we'll get together and we'll share whatever we figured out. And naturally, as a leader, red personality, whatever, I kind of guided the idea of, okay, so we sat down and said, okay, we'll sit this, okay, you will start over here, we'll circle around, I'll go last. I figured this way I could fill in some stuff maybe that was missed or whatever. I didn't know how it was going to go. And basically, nothing, me. That's the way it went. Now, I said, did you guys read it? Yes. Did you say yes? Nobody really felt like they were comfortable to share what they thought they figured out. So then I realized I better put something together a little bit more comprehensive since it's going to go nothing, me. So now I was ready with more than just a little bit I had brought the first time. But now the guy in Knoxville didn't know any of this. Because I know sometimes people say, Rabbi, you preach this whole thing, but you're a hypocrite because who trained you and who did? Look, they asked me, how did you first become a rabbi? I said, because the congregation recognized the anointing. I taught, and they recognized it. That's how, okay? But those of you out there that aren't doing and don't have a congregation recognizing, then you need to be trained because it's a rare exception by necessity. Not because I'm so special, but by necessity, it was done this way with me, okay? All right? I didn't do anything to deserve it. I didn't do anything to earn it. It was necessary. He needed me to be where he needed me to be, to do the things he wanted me to do. He'd already put all the information basically in my head and got me to be to a point where I'd be willing to open my mouth and let his words come out. Basically, I was doing that to anybody that would sit still for 5 seconds. Until finally Yahweh said, you know what, I better give him a group of people that would like to hear what he has to say before he wears everybody out. And asked my wife, ruined a few of her friends. So they were like, we're not coming over anymore. Your husband just won't leave us alone about this stuff. So I'm not making that up. Okay? Because I was excited about this stuff. I was learning that he was just waking up in me. The identity of Israel teaching was the first one. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was in the scripture anywhere. And I would tell everybody and anybody about it, but I knew the chapters and the verses, and I was what you hear now, the same back then. Okay? And yet, you know, I was a hireling at first. And that's why the guy was looking at me pointing to his watch. He said, I hired you to do a 20-minute dissertation, just overview of the Torah portion. Now, he was the praise team leader. So I made the mistake of saying, well, why don't we just cut out a song and give me a few more minutes? No, 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 no. That was the beginning of the end. And I don't mean beginning like months, I mean like the next day. So, you know, that was the wrong thing to say. Because I tried to say, look, but the anointing is there. I'm on a roll. This insight is coming. The people are soaking it up, and you want me to shut up. I was like, why would you want to turn off that faucet when it's flowing? Well, you know, because we have to have our service go only 2 hours, and, you know. People say, why do your services go so long? Because I have a lot to say. All right? And so, were there people in that congregation and every other congregation since then that questioned who were you, why are you in front, and all that kind of stuff? Absolutely. They have their Korach and Dathan Aviram moments. Even Aaron and Miriam moments. Well, who are you? You know, we're special too. It's not about being special. There's nothing special more than anybody else. There's something special in everybody. All of you have something special. Just not the same things that are special. I mean, I watch you do things I cannot do. That's special. I can't sit in social conversation like a lot of you can do. I think that's incredible. I can't do it. Not because it's bad. I just don't have the psychological and emotional makeup. I don't have any of the good blue. I mean, I pick on you guys, but that's how you socialize. That's how you build relationships. That's how you have that intimacy with each other that I don't have. People are like, man, that rabbi, he's always so cold and this and that. Well, I don't have any blue. What do you want from me? Okay? All right? Did you see me walking around the room hugging everybody earlier? No. Okay? So, you know, just understand that this problem here, you can fall into, or you'll run into people falling into it. And it almost always is when they start to have a problem with the person in front of the microphone, okay? That person that has some level of authority above them, and they don't like having anybody above them. This is why it's a rampant, I don't want to call it an epidemic even, like the spreading of a disease, of a thought process, a diseased thought process that we all are kings and priests, and so we all have the Ruach so that we all don't need a teacher anymore. That's what's out there. And that is a diseased, why do we say disease? Because it's going to cause dis-ease in you. It's going to take away your ease, all right? Because you will not be able to get the teaching from the anointing that you need, because now you're getting it from yourself and from other people that are just like you, don't have that gift. And so when I ask people, well, where do you, oh, we have this great little study, and I said, well, who's teaching? Oh, nobody's teaching. Well, then nobody's learning. Oh, no, we're all learning. What are you learning? Are you actually learning right things, wrong things? I meet so many Messianics pronouncing the Hebrew words incorrectly because they heard some teacher who did it wrong pronounce it that way. So now everybody's learning to teach it that way. I did not make friends real well when I was on Hebrew Nation Radio. Still am, actually. But we used to do a thing called the Torah Teacher Roundtable in the morning once a week. Be about 4 or 5 so-called Torah teachers on a discussion panel for 2 hours, going through the Torah portion, making their little bullet point tidbits and things. And every now and then there would be some people in there using Hebrew words or getting into the paleo picture language and then mentioning the names of the Hebrew letters. And they were butchering it. And at some point I had to step up and say, excuse me, as the only Jew in the room, allow me please to tell you you're pronouncing the words wrong. And it's important because everybody listening is assuming you're doing it right. And now they're all going to do it wrong. This didn't make me very popular. Okay? So because I'm listening to this in the basement of my parents' house. My father's doing work in that basement because that's where he ran his little business out of. And he could hear this stuff playing in the background. And at one point he finally says to me, "What's an aleph?" I said, "It's an aleph. They just don't know how to pronounce it." Aleph, bet, gimel, no, aleph. What's an aleph? I don't know, the accent's on the wrong syllable. It's an aleph. I mean, Pasak, pair of socks. I don't know what they're saying. It's Pesach. But see, anything you do, I know I'm being funny, but not, okay? Because anything you do instructionally or just doing that's different that people don't know and they're going to try to learn from you, if it's imitated, it's on you if you were wrong. So yes, it matters that you learn to pronounce the words correctly. It matters that you do the things correctly. Like all the geniuses walking around with rainbow-colored seat. This is teaching everybody a very, very wrong way of doing it. And now I know there's a bunch of people online that are going to argue with me. What is your qualification to argue with me? Well, I read the verse and it doesn't say what to do with the other strings. Yes, it does. It says leave them alone. It says dye one of them blue. Okay? But see, we're all self-anointed and self-appointed and self-sovereign. And we just have this Korach moment all the time dealing with any kind of leadership. And so you don't understand what it means to be set apart. If you are set apart, okay, I'm going to framework this a little bit differently. You're set, what does set mean? It's like placed something, right? Set apart means to take something and place it apart. But you were set apart from the world, but you were set into a structure. And you have to be very aware of where you are in that structure. And you need to be accepting of where you are in that structure, because that's where the problem was with Korach. He could not accept where he was in the structure. He thought that if I'm not where I want to be, then I'm not being treated like I'm set apart. No, you're still set apart. You're not doing the world stuff, although he was starting to do the world stuff, which is to have jealousies and envies and all this other pride and egos and nonsense. So what you have to deal with here is, first and foremost, accept that you are set apart, and that means that he's going to place you where he chooses in function, in structure, in the vertical. And praise Yah for that. Appreciate it. Have gratitude. This is the problem that Korach did not have gratitude. He didn't appreciate what he had. That's what Moses says. Is it a little thing that he's done all these things for you? He separated you from the rest of the congregation. He separated you and brought you near to himself, giving you these jobs and tasks of the tabernacle to do that other people don't get to do. Even more so, each of like the Kehathites and the Merari, etc., they all had jobs that they couldn't do each other's job either. They all had their thing that was by their clan. Okay? That's not enough. That doesn't make you special enough. No, see, it wasn't about being special. It was having authority was the problem. See, some of you still have that problem too. You have a problem with authority. Either A, you have a hard time submitting to it, or B, when it's your actual job to have some, you drop the ball and have no idea how to have authority. Okay? So You either are wrongly usurping authority, inserting yourself, or you're dropping the ball because everybody's expecting you to do something in authority, you're not doing it, or thirdly, you're sitting there just not being willing to cooperate and submit under authority. So there's three possibilities there: usurping, not submitting, or not leading like you're supposed to if that's your job and your role. Nobody said this is going to be an easy thing. It's going to take you out of your comfort zone and force you to grow up. Otherwise, you're going to have a Korach moment again. Just like he did, you're going to have those same problems. Verse 11. By the way, we ended in verse 10 again. He says, what are these things not enough? He says, yet you want more. You want what is not yours. Think about if that ever happens in your mind where you're wanting something that deep down you know is really not yours. Ladies, some of you have this problem where you realize you're trying to be the husband and it's not really yours, but then you think, but he's not doing it. Well, that's a different problem. Him not doing it, if Moses was dropping the ball, that would not justify Korach to jump in and usurp. Saul was dropping the ball. David did not have a right to jump in. And he was anointed to replace him eventually. But he knew, not until the right day comes, when Saul is taken out of the position. See, that story is such a great account in the scriptures because it takes away all your excuses to justify your behavior. If David would not usurp authority, being A, anointed to be king, he was. B, Saul was trying to kill him. And he had lost his mind. And yet David said, nope. It's not my job to take him out. You never hear him badmouth Saul, not once. He doesn't talk behind his back. He's not rallying troops against him. And the one time he snuck up and cut off his seat, he knew he was wrong. David realized he was wrong. This is a great story for you to learn about authority, because some of you ladies especially thinking, but my husband's dropping the ball. Well, encourage him to come see me. Get the leadership to help. Or if maybe your husband doesn't want to do all of that, well, then you have a marriage problem. Okay? All of you ladies who are not married, who are hoping to be married someday, or married again, but maybe you've been married before, but you're hoping to get it right, you need to really make sure that you are marrying a man who understands how to be a man and how to understand and live out his role, so that you not only don't have to, will not be tempted to. You need to do a better job of selecting. And men, those ladies should be like, you should be like a famine in a wasted desert if you are not behaving right, then nobody wants you. And you deserve it. You got to become a husband worthy of being married. A man that's of value to be married. And ladies, especially the younger ones, you teenagers, you guys are going to be, hopefully, listening real carefully so that you are not beyond stupid. I'm meaning this every bit of the way I'm saying it. Ladies, you want a man to provide, to take care, to keep you safe, to work hard. And you know what he wants? He wants sex. You give that to anybody other than your husband, you've diminished your value. That is your one bargaining chip that they want. You want money and protection and safety, and they want you. So if they get you cheap and free, why would they have to do all the other stuff? Okay? I'm being blunt. So all you teenagers, you think you're all just going out there, you guys are making out. I know you are. Parents are thinking, what? Yeah, they are. They're all off in the corner kissing and snuggling and everything else. You're being stupid. Girls, I'm talking to you. You giving that stuff, oh, but I want him to want me. He wants you. but don't give him anything. But also, ladies, why should a man kill himself to provide for you when you give it away so easily, don't value yourself, and don't make yourself, I hate to say that, but make yourself attractive to him? You find his ability to make money and to provide for you attractive. He finds you physically attractive and your personality attractive. Be attractive. Work on those two things. And guys, work on being able to provide and protect. It's not like rocket science, this whole thing. But I got a bunch of guys not understanding why their marriages are in trouble because you just only make $20,000 a year at 50 years old. Oh, you've been picking on me. Not picking on anything. You did this to yourself. And some of the ladies are like, I'm like, well, you picked them. Well, we were young and this and that, and then you gave the sex away early, and then, so now we got kind of attached. And that was your dumbness. Don't diminish your value. And I don't care if you are not a virgin anymore and you're older, you've been married before. You meet a new guy, you give him nothing. And make sure he's ready to provide you with everything. And then that comes together where you get married, and now he can provide you with everything and you can provide him with everything. I mean, it's the right way to do this. It's the set apart way to do it. Okay? I don't know. I'm speaking to nobody, I think. Some of you guys are listening. Teenagers are all like, yeah, whatever. Okay? It's the teenagers that I wish would be listening, but they're not. Because some of you are dating so young that you're going to wait till 18 to get married. There's no way you're going to stay out of bed between now and 18. It's too long. You're already starting on a bad footing. And I can't understand how your parents are letting you do all that, but they are. And it's just foolishness. I mean, if you want to ask me how I handled my daughter and what I did and didn't let her do at what ages, and how very supervised and very much watched like a hawk she was, and still is. Guys, with your daughters especially. And I'm not talking about coming down hard on them. Get them to want to do this for themselves, to value themselves enough to protect that which is most valuable that they have to offer. I mean, there's a reason why a man wants to kill himself providing for you. It's because of what you can give him. And look, I know it sounds cheap in some way. It's not. It's the way you were designed. Okay? This is just, it's facts. Okay? That's it. Okay? Every story that you see in every legend is the man going to fight every war to get the beautiful princess. You need to be the beautiful princess. I'm not talking about looks, because whatever you look like, there's somebody that thinks you're a beautiful princess, okay? What I'm saying is, no, really, I'm just saying it's not about that. It's about, but be that beautiful princess, act like a beautiful princess, and to have a man be the knight in shining armor who's got the job and the income and the ability to lead his family properly, that has that value worth giving your beautiful princessness to. Whatever, if that's even a word, okay? That was for you, Stephanie. I know you think I make up a word every teaching, so, all right. Okay? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. This is what it means to be set apart. The world just sleeps with the rest of the world. The world doesn't value our roles as men and women. Matter of fact, they don't even want to believe there are things like men and women anymore. Okay? So there's no value. It's cheapened everything. And what if you do give yourself and you don't marry that person? Well, now you've taken your most valuable thing and you don't have it anymore at the same level of value to give the next one. You've tarnished the value because it was special when you saved it for that one person. And you'll regret it. Not now, eventually. You'll wish that you could have been for that person. Even if you did save it for that marriage and the marriage went bad and now you're divorced and you're going to want to get married again, you're still going to wish that you could have been, a virgin for the new one. You want to be able to have that unique and value for that new person and that they would do the same for you. That's a set-apart mindset. The uniqueness of the relationship. What does Yahweh say? You are to have none other than me. That's a relationship of intimacy. When we do the bridal and the wedding vows for the bride and the groom, and we says, basically, when we have the exchange of the rings, we say, look, let this ring declare to everyone that you have no other woman in the world but her, and that she has no other man in the world but you. Forsaking all others. But nowadays people go and get right into bed on the first date, as if sex is part of social interaction. Dating is not a social activity. It's a vetting process for marriage. I know you do social things when you're dating, but it's not a social activity if you're set apart. You can be like the world, you can do whatever you want. The world does anything and everything, and probably things you're not even aware of. I mean, anything you can think of and even things you can't think of, they're doing. But what's appropriate? Back to the Korach events here. So, verse 11, he says, therefore you and all your company are set against Yahweh. So notice he straightens them out and says, look, you're picking on me, you're picking on Aaron. Oh, no. You are attacking the one who put us in this leadership position. If I am anointed and appointed and you pick on me, you're not picking on me. You might think you are. You're picking on the one who placed that person in the position. He says, you are set against Yahweh. And Aaron, what is he that you grumble against him? He says, I understand why you're grumbling against me, but Aaron, what are you grumbling against him for? He says, therefore, all of this, he says, and Moses sent to Dathan and Abiram and the sons of Eliab and said to them, but they said, we're not coming. Oh, we're not coming. You're calling, we're not coming. See what happens a few verses later, though. Is it little that you have brought us out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you would also seize total rule over us? And now they are just doubling down on their stupidity. They are just doubling down on their foolishness. You brought us out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness. Really? First of all, if they're talking about Egypt, that was never a land flowing with milk and honey. If they're talking about the land, well, they didn't want to go in. They had the opportunity. And that you would seize total rule over you? I don't see Moses trying to seize anything. I see them trying to seize something. Moses had the authority. He wasn't grabbing any authority. Verse 14. It's funny because even here in this ministry, there's times where I've had to walk up to people on the staff in various times over the years, this goes back lots of years, and remind them, this is mine as he's given it to me. It's not yours. It gets to be my vision. I have the responsibility to protect that vision. And so you don't get to do this your way. Okay? And of course, that received backlash, and I was a raging egomaniac and this and that and the other thing. Or I got argued with saying, we are doing what you want. No, you're not, or I wouldn't be having this conversation. Because you're taking my vision and making it your vision. But I've had to say that to people in charge of various places over the years. Thankfully, not anymore. I've got really good people now in the positions where I don't have that problem. But over the years, okay, I'm not just talking like you're trying to figure out recently. Just over the years, almost every time I've had somebody in any kind of authority position, they would start to go off in directions, and I'd have to remind them, this is not yours. You don't get to just do what you want the way you want. This is his, and he gave it to me, and he expects me to make it what I think he wants it to be, not what you think he wants it to be. All right? Now, so Moses had that role. So as far as them, of course, the people thought I was trying to be a dictator and trying to seize what? I built this. Oh, no, you didn't build this. Yahweh built this. Okay, fine. Okay, but I'm the one who came here every day and made all the decisions and built this. Okay? And so, and it's funny because there's lots of people that thought they built it, and you know what? None of them are here. None of them were here when I started, because when I started, it was just Rebbetzin and myself. There was just two. And none of the ones that have ever said anything along those lines are here now, because they did not build this. And it's way bigger now than ever when they were part of it, whoever they were all the way back through the years. Because this is not a new thing. Moses had, any place you have leadership, you have people that are just below that leadership that are wanting to create a problem with the fact that they don't like that there's leadership. Okay? You know, I had people working for me who complained that I was not here enough to help make decisions. And then when I started showing up all the time, complained that I was here making decisions. I'm not making that up. Billy's laughing. I'm serious. They would complain that I wasn't here, so they were forced to make all these decisions because I was working out of the house a lot. And then so to fix that, I started coming every day and all day. Then they whined and complained that I was here too much. Because now they realized that I was now interfering with the way they were running things behind my back without telling me. See, now, Dathan and Aviram and Korach couldn't do that. They needed to get Moses out of the way and Aaron out of the way because there was no way to start doing what they wanted with those two in the way. It wasn't going to happen. All right? So, I mean, if you want to run this a different way, you're going to have to wait a long time until I'm not here. Okay? And that's assuming that I haven't already anointed somebody else to be the Joshua, and then you still will not be able to do what you need to do. All right? So he says, also, you have not brought us into the land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance. He just said you took us out of the land flowing with milk and honey. Now he says you've not brought us into the land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards, etc. Would you bore out the eyes of these men? We are not coming. We're not coming. I think they stuck their tongues out at Moses is what I think they did. All right. And Moses became very displeased and said to Yahweh, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I done harm to any of them. I haven't taken anything from them. It says, Moses said to Korach, tomorrow you and all your assembly shall be there before Yahweh, you and they and Aaron. Each one take his fire holder, and you shall put incense in it. Let each one bring his fire holder before Yahweh. 250 fire holders, and you and Aaron, and each one with his fire holder. Now look what it says in verse 18. Each one took his fire holder and put fire in it, and laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Oh, apparently they came. We're not coming. Oh, I guess we have to come. Well, it could have been as simple as being embarrassed to be called a coward, not showing up. The people are all watching. So they had to put, stand up for what they claimed. I mean, you're going to speak big, you better be ready to back it up. Okay? You got to back it up. I did this one time with a congregation we had in Nashville. We had a lady that had a problem. Okay? Sort of a Korach thing. And she didn't like what I was teaching. She's very mainstream still in her thoughts. Problem was we had started in her living room with a Bible study she invited me to speak at, and I talked them to getting out of the house and starting a congregation, and I offered to help them. And it got to the point where she liked so little, I should say. She didn't like what I was saying so much that she would walk out at the beginning of the message, go into the kitchen, mess with the oneg stuff, and then come back out during the Q&A, the afterburn, and start throwing bombs at me based on what I said. And I turned to her and I said, excuse me, Linda, but You didn't sit through the teaching. You have no right to be up here and making a noise. And I know because I watched you get up and leave. I'm at the front. I can see everything. So they decided to have a little meeting like this. And so I looked them all in the face after the meeting went for a little while, and I said, fine, I'll leave. I don't need this. I have a congregation in Knoxville. I don't need this one. I came out here to help you guys. Have fun. Have a nice day. And I left. I said, if you want her, good, let her teach you. And a few of them grabbed me in the parking lot like the first time in Knoxville and said, well, where are you going to go? I said, I'm going back to Knoxville. I have a congregation already. I do this in the afternoon. I did Knoxville in the morning. So I did 2 in the same day. This is before I added the one in Chattanooga. I said, I don't need to drive all these hours, through the mountains and everything else, and then back and get home at like 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday just so I could do 2 congregations. Oh, but we want you to teach. Fine, find a place, but we're not going to play this game ever again. You're going to set up a place. We're not fighting over anything. I'm making the decisions. Or I'm not going. You can have whoever you want. Okay? What we didn't have back then, which I've learned since, is an expectations meeting. See, now I'm setting the right expectations, which still didn't go well because then we had a guy that decided he wanted to do the praise time, and then he started putting mainstream songs into the praise, and I said no. And he looked at me like, how dare you say no? I said, actually, that's my job. I have that authority. And we had another problem because people don't want to be told they can't do what they want their way, which is essentially what's going on here. I'm just giving you these examples because I want to show you these things don't change. Okay? Now, Moses, he could have said to them, fine, have Korach and them. Moses, Aaron and I are leaving. I bet you a whole bunch of them would have followed him. But Moses had an advantage I didn't have in Nashville. He had Yahweh talking to him, panim panim, and Yahweh to come down with dealing with the fire holders. Okay? Yahweh telling him how to handle this. I just said, fine, you guys want to do all of this? I'm leaving. I don't need this. So each one took his fire holder, put fire in it, laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Verse 19. And Korach assembled all the congregation against them at the door of the tent of meeting. So everybody was there to watch this. And then the esteem of Yahweh appeared to all the congregation. And Yahweh spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from the midst of this congregation, and let me consume them in a moment. See, this was Yahweh's testing them before he did what he was going to do. He wanted us to make sure, how angry is Moses and Aaron? How much are they offended by what's going on? How bitter are they about what's happening? How much vengeance do they want? But they fell on their faces and said, oh, Elohim of spirits of all flesh, when one man sins, are you wroth with all the congregation? So they said the right thing. So Yahweh spoke to Moses and said, speak to the congregation, saying, move away from around the tents of Korach, Dathan, and Aviram. So Moshe rose up and went to Dathan and Aviram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, please turn away from the tents of these wrong men. Do not touch whatever belongs to them, lest you be consumed in all their sins. Then they moved away from around the tents of Korach, Dathan, and Aviram. And Dathan and Aviram came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives and their sons and their little children. And Moshe said, by this you know that Yahweh has sent me to do all these works, and they are not from my own heart. So look, the fact that Dathan and Aviram were coming out of the tents, they may not have been going there with their fire holders like originally. They might have still been in their tents. It's hard to tell by the way this is worded. But the point being, before anything happens, nothing's happened yet. The people are given a choice. Would have been an easy choice after it happened. Yahweh consumes them all. Let's get away from their tents. He wanted them to show where their loyalties were, where their trust was, where their belief was in the vertical structure before he did anything. First, he tested Aaron and Moses. Hey, I'm going to just kill everybody. And they're like, no, don't do that. Just the people that sinned. Let's deal with them. Okay? Then he says, now tell the people, let's see their choice. So Moses says, by this you shall know that Yahweh has sent me. Man, I wish there was a way for me to do that. To do all these works that they are not from my own heart. I don't want people to die. I just wish there was a way I could prove to you that he sent me to do this. Now, the word should be enough. The message should be enough. So just like Moses is going to say, if Yahweh creates what is unheard of, and the earth opens and swallows them up, well, you know what? If you're hearing things out of my mouth that you don't hear anywhere else, that's sort of the same idea. The uniqueness of something, right? He says, if these men die as all men do, or they are visited as all men are visited, then Yahweh has not sent me. But if he creates what is unheard of, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up, with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the grave, then you shall know that these men have scorned Yahweh. And it came to be, as he ended speaking all these words, that the ground under them split apart, and the earth, see, they wouldn't be set apart, so the ground was set apart and swallowed them up. It was set apart, okay? Opened up its mouth and swallowed them up with their households and all the men with Korach with all their goods. So they and all those with them went down alive into the grave, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. And all Israel were round about them, fled out their cry, for they said, lest the earth swallows us up. And a fire came out from Yahweh and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. That's pretty dramatic. That's pretty dramatic. But you know what's funny? Who's going to get blamed for all of this? The people are still going to blame Moses and Aaron for getting everybody killed. Dumb as dirt. That's what we are. Okay? You know, there's a phrase, and I know that people could take this wrong. It's not an appropriate phrase, I guess. But, you know, Billy and I, we just believe that, you know, people are basically, they're retarded. And I don't mean that to insult people with a handicap. I think they're handicapped. I really think we're using the word correctly. Not in an insulting way. I think that we have a part of us that is not functioning at the optimal, proper level, which is what retarded means, okay? I think the people have this problem of psychological and emotional and mental retardation. We just cannot seem to grasp things that should be easy and obvious. That's a handicap. The handicap is we're human. And we're focused on being human and being flesh and being in the below and being earthly instead of heavenly and the above and spiritual. It's retarding our growth. So I'm not trying to use a slur in any way. I think it's the actual right word. Okay? I mean, I know people might say, oh, that person's, and uses that word, and it's just saying that they're dumb or this, that. No, I'm not saying that. I said there's something wrong with us when we just do what we do and don't want to get it. And it's not because we're dumb or slow or anything else. There's something wrong in our connection vertically, in our connection with the world. The connections are wrong. And so it makes it almost impossible for us to see correctly. And so Elder Billy and I were like, I'll call him up in the morning on my way here. So what are we dealing with? More stuff. Especially on Mondays. Oh, yeah. I said, how are we doing? It's Monday. He didn't even have to tell me what's going on. It's Monday. Mondays are the best. Oh, my gosh. It's like it accumulates all weekend and it's just ready to bust out on us on a Monday. Nothing but dumb. And it's just, by dumb meaning, not like people are not intelligent. Just we're being human and we're doing foolish things. And we're just stubbornly refusing to see the right things, the right way. And we counsel, both of us, and we say the same things. You know, he leaves his door open often enough so I can hear. And I'll go in and say, yeah, you know, or I'll walk in and I'll be like, okay, they're giving him too much grief. I'm just going to put my foot down hard. I say, okay, knock it off. Let that go. You got time to grow up a little bit. So this happens, and we see the result. Yahweh's going to make his stand and let you know who's set apart, who's not set apart. And you can see what happened here. He gets to decide, not you, right? He's the judge. He is the judge. Let me just see how much time I've got. None. But I'll say one more thing, and then, well, I'll say one more thing. We're going to start with Ephesians next week. That's perfect, okay? So I wanted to get right there, and that's going to be perfect. So I want to say something that has to do with being set apart. Sometimes being set apart means thinking differently, right? Feeling differently. Sometimes it means doing different things. And sometimes it requires a lot of courage because it's going to take you way outside your comfort zone, like maybe physically moving. You know, as a set-apart people, we read this in Numbers 33 in the Torah portion at the end of the book of Numbers, they moved 42 times. I talked to a lot of you, and I'm specifically talking to some of you that live in other countries or live in really bad situations or undesirable situations in your homes. You know what? Grab a hold of yourself, stand up on your hind legs with your spine straight, be a grown-up, and leave. Okay? And I'm talking about especially those grown-up 20-somethings living in their parents' house. And then telling me how much their parents are mean to them about this or mean to them about that or won't let them do this and won't let them do that Torah-wise. You're 25 years old. You're 23 years old. You're 28 years old. Why are you still in their house? Well, because I don't have any money. But you know what? Get the thumb out of your mouth. Put your big boy pants on or big girl pants on and figure out how to take care of yourself. Because I've got people saying these things all the time. Oh, they say to me, there's nobody where I live. Then move. How are you so attached to a piece of dirt wherever you are? Oh, but moving's scary. Then stop complaining. Okay? Look, I can't speak for you. I just know that if I was with my wife and or without my kids, depending on how early in our marriage we're talking about, and we had found all of this and that there was nothing where we lived, because there wasn't anything where we lived that we could have gone to, if I had found this, I would have packed up and moved. I would have figured out how to get a job and get a housing situation, everything else that I need to, so that my family could be where there's a leader, a teacher, a congregation, a fellowship, an assembly that those kids and my wife and I could grow up with. Well, I just don't know if that's what Yahweh wants. This is what I was talking about, retarded. Okay? Your thinking has not grown. You're still thinking like an insecure 8-year-old. Well, how am I going to take care of myself? How are you taking care of yourself now? I'm not. But you're 57. We really don't have strong people. It shouldn't be that big a deal to get up and move. You can get a job anywhere. You can get housing anywhere. And you can pack a car or a van or a truck or something and move your stuff. It really is not that tough. And if you're physically challenged to do some of these things, call us and we might be able to help you, depending on your situation. But by the way, if you call us and you're totally physically capable and everything else capable, we're not giving you anything. All right? We're not going to codependent your problem. You've had enough of that in your life. We're not going to enable you. To be set apart is to stand up and own you. Remember what I said all those months and months ago? I said, you are primarily responsible for all aspects of your life. You are primarily responsible. All aspects. Yes, you can call for guidance. Yes, you can call for advice, but you're still going to be responsible to do what you do with that. Well, you don't understand how hard it is. There's nobody where I live. Then move. I don't know what's so, I'm not saying you have to move here. There's lots of other congregations, wherever you live, maybe closer in another country, whatever it is, but go be where there are people. Oh, but you don't understand, my mother's 80, and my mother's 80-something too. She doesn't live here. My father-in-law is 92. He's going to be 93. He doesn't live here. My wife's going to visit him this week. She can visit him as often as she wants. You don't have to live near somebody just because they're older and this and that and the other thing. If they can't take care of themselves, bring them with you. That's doable too. But they don't want to go. Why do they get a choice? Did you have a choice when you were 4? Well, if they're over 80 and they're somewhat invalid, they don't get a choice either. If they cannot take care of themselves, like when you couldn't take care of yourself, how much choices did you get? No, you got one, like, do you want chocolate or vanilla? That's like a choice. All right? I mean, you didn't get important choices. But if you can't take care of yourself, whatever the age is, you don't get a choice. Oh, but you don't understand. No, you don't understand. Because you're coming from weakness, okay? To be set apart is to have an inner strength that is different than the world's weakness. Stop giving in to the weakness. And it's getting worse generationally. Weaker and weaker. I'm talking to you teenagers. You grew into and started in a generation that's already weak and getting weaker by the minute. I'm not picking on you. You were born into it. But if you decide to be strong, you will thrive above all that weakness because the competition will be almost nothing. If you were born, 60, 70 years ago, a lot of competition, a lot of strong people. You go back into the 50s and 60s, lots of strong people. You go now, since the millennials, since Gen X and all that, it has gotten weaker by each generation of that alphabet soup of generations, okay? And so you could thrive if you would just decide to get some strength and own your life. The opportunities are just endless because you're competing against lazy, complacent, weak, defeated people. Okay? They're walking around defeated. They've already decided they can't afford to live. They can't afford to get an apartment. They can't afford this. Because they're only thinking about the $15 an hour they can make at a job. There's still jobs out there that pay you your age, whatever that age is. You can make $60 an hour. You can make $100 an hour. For crying out loud, when I was 18, I made $100 to $150 an hour DJing parties. And that was in 1981. Imagine what that's worth today. Okay? Some of you are excited to make $400 in a week. I made that in a night. Okay? That was 4 hours at 150. I made 600. Okay? Or if I didn't want to pay that, I got them for $100 an hour at the bottom end, still $400. In 1981, it's probably over $1,000 today. With all the, inflation we've had and all the devaluing of the dollar and everything else. You can figure this out. You have way more opportunities than you think because the competition is almost zero. The problem is that you're lazy, you're defeated, and you're weak. So get productive, be victorious, and put in the effort. Be strong. All right? And you can do anything. Do you think the kingdom is going to be filled with a bunch of whiny, complaining, complacent, weak people? No. Well, then we got to find that inner strength. That's why I yell at you guys the way I do. Look, there are people that don't like me from almost the minute they meet me because they've not, and I'm not saying this in any condescending way or bragging way, they've almost never run into somebody with the level of internal strength that I have, and that scares them. It's intimidating if you've not dealt with it. Somebody that is confident and competent and knows who he is and where he's going and what he's doing. And has that strength. And so that's when people say, oh, he's so intimidating and scary. Well, that's why, because I'm so big? I'm 5'5". There are people watch me on the screen, then they'll come up here like, oh, he's a little guy. But when I start talking, you'll think I'm 6'7". And so you can do this. You can find that strength. Stop being weak and complacent and manipulated by all of the winds of doctrine, so to speak. Like instead of winds of doctrine, just the way the world sees everything. We're not talking about scripture here. We're talking about the world sees jobs and life and housing and this and that. Stop seeing through their lens. You know why those few people out there, those 1%ers or the 10th of a percent, whatever, know why they have so much? Because they decided to do things nobody else was doing in a level of commitment that other people weren't doing. They didn't all just have daddies that gave them a bunch of money. Okay? And you can do all of those things too, but you have to do the work. Every one of them will tell you they outworked everybody that they were competing against. They outworked. But are you? Where's your work ethic? Okay? Now, I'm not always here in this building, although I'm here a lot, but even when I'm not here, I'm working most of the time. I'm going to be 60 next year, and I'll outwork all of you. And that's not bragging. I will put in more hours than you. If I need to put in, I'll put in more hours than I'm even putting in now. I mean, I was on a Zoom call last night after doing an Erev Shabbat, after I worked all day, even though we close at 1, I worked all day. Then we did the Erev Shabbat, then we did Rosh Chodesh, then I did the Zoom call till 11:30. And then I got back here, I was here at 11. Okay? What was it? Okay, 10:45. I was here before 11. Okay? And I'll be here again until 11, easily. And that's not bragging, it's setting an example. Okay? Do you ever hear me whining and complaining about the work? Do I ever look tired to you? Like I'm just like worn out? Do I ever really look out? Now, I might look frustrated dealing with nonsense, but do I look like worn out, like physically worn out? Okay, when I was sick. Okay, then I looked like I was dead. Okay? That was different. What? I scared you, that's true. But I still came out here half dead. Okay? And I would have stayed out here if it wasn't for Uncle Bob and my wife ready to yank me away. If I had talked another 30 seconds, they were going to grab me. Because I don't know quit. Some of you quit way too easy. There's a verse. Some of you remember this in Christianity as a verse everybody went to, but do you have to understand the verse that says, I can do all things through Messiah who does what? Strengthens me. You can't do anything through Messiah if you're not strengthened. You got to be strengthened by him. How do you get strengthened by him? You get inspired by what he did. He worked tirelessly. He said, my Father works, so do I. And by the way, I work 7 days. Saturday is not a break for me. Okay, I am putting out effort doing the ministry work on Saturday all day. That's not a complaint. I could go tomorrow to visit my father-in-law in Florida and spend a week on vacation in Florida. And I'm sick in a way because I'd rather be here working. Okay? I don't have any interest in laying in the sun and doing nothing. If I went to Florida, I'd bring my computer, be working anyway. If anybody's ever been on vacation with me on a cruise, some people have been, some of the leadership, I spent the entire cruise in the buffet with my laptop and some books, worked the whole time I was on the boat. Because that's the weird, crazy thing I do. I like being busy and working and doing what he's called me to do. It wasn't because I had so much work I couldn't put it down. Other people enjoyed going sightseeing. I can't stand that. I have a weird, different head. I'd rather sit in front of a computer and with textbooks and Bibles and scripture and things, near the ice cream machine in the buffet, and work all day, where nobody needs me for anything. You got to make choices, and then you got to put all the effort in that you can do to get those choices there. If you need guidance, call us, contact us, set an appointment. Anyway, I want to inspire you guys today. We have to get going and moving and working. And you have to believe that you can do this, okay? You have to believe it, because you can. All right. I still didn't even end the teaching. That was the teaching ended 10 minutes ago. Let's pray. Father, we come before you. And Father, we want to truly understand what it means to be set apart and how that has to do with our role in the vertical. And that we would have a dayenu attitude to all that you've already done for us. And that we can appreciate and have gratitude for where we are and where you have us and what you have us doing. We want to be open to doing more. We want to be strong and not weak. We want to be productive and not complacent and lazy. We want to be diligent in our effort. We want to have wisdom. We want to get counsel. Father, help us to be inspired, to be strengthened by Mashiach. Help us to truly embrace what it means to be your set-apart people and to be the kind of person that you would have be a king and priest in your kingdom. So, Father, we want to thank you for your word, for this message. May it bear fruit and take root. May it be received, if it's from you, be received as revelation and then acted upon. So, Father, we thank you, we praise you, we give you all glory and honor. In the name above all names, Yeshua our Messiah. Amen. Amen. Amen.